Hey guys, it's mcfixit here. We're going to be taking this Enigma and adding a sweet hotbed stencil die on top of it. I'm going to walk you through all the tools, the supplies, and the know-how on how I do this. I want to show you just kind of the ins and outs, what I've learned over time on doing this. Hope this turns into a really sweet project. And so we're just going to go ahead and get into it. First thing you're going to need is a disc. I'm going to be using a white one because we're using Moon Night. It only makes sense to have it white and black. If you choose another stencil or another disc color, you probably could and get away with it. Maybe even a light gray, if you have one, might work for this one. And then I went ahead and just kind of created this one. Then I went ahead and got a stencil. Oracle 5160, and with the vinyl I just cut it on a Cricut. Makes it really quick and simple. If you don't have that, you can tape it down and cut it with like an X-Acto knife or a utility knife. That does work as well. You're going to need a transfer paper as well. That's what this big roll right here is. I just folded it in half twice, put a disc down, drew a circle around the disc, and where the fold lines were I put Sharpie and just went ahead and made that. It makes it really nice and easy. Lots of paper towels. I made this little 3D print thing that you can put a disc on, and it just helps line things up. Totally optional, but it does help me out getting the best lineup I possibly can get, and so I use that a lot. I also use gloves just to make sure I keep myself safe. Dawn dish soap and water works really well for cleanup. If not, go to a kitchen sink. I'm using an electric burner. It's right over here. And with this electric burner, it works really well, just a few dollars on Amazon. I think it was in the $15 to $20 range. Acetone helps remove the old stamp and sometimes any imperfections, or if you get anything on the back side, you can take care of that pretty quick. We're going to be using iDye poly. Make sure it is the poly, and we're just going to add water to it, hot water, and so it's half of one of the little bricks inside. Cut it in half, dump it in, add some hot water, and mix it around. This mason jar is about the same size as the thing itself on the top, so I don't know exactly what size that is. If you know, put it in the comment section below so my future videos would be correct. A little funnel. I did cut the bottom of this one off a little bit just so when it sits in there, you're good. I used a pair of scissors to cut the iDye poly, a weeding tool of some sort, a scraper of some sort. You can also use like a credit card, gift card, a Sharpie. This is an old pan. I actually didn't even clean it out since really the last time I used it because I used it for a black disc die. If not, you will want to clean that out. Dawn dish soap and water, and paper towel works great for that. And this is just a little heat gun. It's a 2-speed. I only use it on the first speed, kind of like the same concept as a hair dryer. It just helps the vinyl adhere to your disc very, very well. So let's go ahead and jump in and make this happen. So the first thing I like to do is just go ahead and set up my workstation by kind of scooting everything back a little bit and getting stuff out of the way so we can make this happen pretty quick. Go ahead and put on gloves. We're going to be using acetone, which is very corrosive. It actually eats through plastic, and it can even eat through these gloves, and so just go ahead and get a nice little amount and back and forth really quick. Once you've done that, go ahead and go to a new location on it. Get a little more acetone. I will say I love these Neo Disc by Latitude 64. I know that's a Discmania, but Latitude 64 actually produces their disc and or makes the mold in their factory for these. The only thing that's kind of weird about it is it does have an effect on the disc where when they put it in and they kind of put the stamp on, I feel like they almost emboss the stamp in the sense that it kind of presses into the disc a lot more than other makers of disc. And so if Discmania is ever listening, that's my only critique on this. I love these discs. I think they fly well, they beat in well, which means they pretty much follow what they're supposed to, lose a little bit of stability from being fresh. But you can even see here, like, I don't know how well it's going to show up, but there's a dark spot right there because they press it in pretty hard into the plastic. It also makes disc dyeing these discs a little harder because they don't make blanks with Discmania yet. So if you guys are listening as well, give me some blanks. That'd be awesome. But if not, just keep making good discs. That's all I really care about, and have production high, so we don't have crazy prices. So that looks good to me. One thing is, whenever you do this, there always is the opportunity that you are going to have a little bit of something still show through. And I don't know if you can see these gloves kind of got eaten just from that acetone for those few seconds I was in there. So again, take care of yourself, take care of your hands. Oh, one other thing. Go ahead, Dawn dish soap water, give it a good spray. It is really important that you clean that off afterwards, because it will kind of still eat through the disc. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and weed our stencil. This weeding should be very easy. This is a clear Oracle 5160, which means it's going to be not as visible. The white ones have a blue background that looks like this underneath it, but this one does not have that. It is clear all in white, which means it's kind of hard to see. So I'm going to just kind of walk through anything that you want to be black. You go ahead and weed out. You literally weed out what you don't want. Or what you want to be black. So everything that I want to be black on here, I must weed out. If I do not weed it out, it will not be black. So I am going to go ahead and get some of the finer details and then go for the big moon. Just want to make sure I'm getting the right spot, because it is sometimes hard to see. So just move yourself around until you found the correct spot with. And I just did the wrong spot. I'm talking too much, not focusing enough. So that happens a lot. I really do like the clear ones when you're putting the disc on there. But I wish they had a background that was darker. It was not clear on white. If it was clear on blue even, I think you would be able to see it better. I could be wrong though. Maybe that's why they do it with the white. And you know what? I have this little piece here. It's going to be hard to see, but I did make a little bit of an impression down there when I was scraping. So I am going to try to get, well, I have to do it again. I'm going to cut a little piece and actually put it over that place where I put my pick, because it does have a little depression. That will just help seal that in case that depression did go all the way through, which is very easy to do. And I'm going to use my little scraper tool because I want the center of the eyes to stay, because those are white. Sometimes if you pull up on the side, and then use your little weeding tool, you can press down. Okay, that's looking good. Trying to make sure I didn't miss anything else right there. And then we will go ahead and pull up the moon. The big moon, I should say. Just like so. Again, it's kind of hard to see. It's clear, but that's okay. Then we're going to go ahead and get the corner of it. Actually, no, we're not going to do that yet. I'm going to go ahead and grab my disc. In 1 second, I'm thinking through this, because I don't think I actually centered this properly. I might have, but it does not look like it on here. So I am probably going to try to find what center is. Just going to use a clear disc for a second. This will be in a future disc die. And I'm just trying to put a couple of dots on there so I really can see it. Okay, I guess I did center it up pretty well. It didn't look like it was. So yeah, we'll go ahead and peel this bottom part off. it just looked like I might have messed that up. So I wasn't certain if I wanted to actually peel the whole thing off. Again, sometimes it is very, very difficult to see. And so I'm going to kind of do the same thing. I'm going to put a couple of dots around it so I know kind of where I'm going. Because the next thing we're going to do is grab this transfer paper. And this transfer paper I have used a number of times. I'm just trying to line it up nice and good. I think that looks good right there. From where I put those dots, trying to get them all around the edge of the circle. And so because you don't have a whole lot, it's only kind of in the center, this should work really well. Pulling this up. If you're having issues, you can also kind of scrape on the back, but I believe this should pull up relatively well. And you can kind of switch directions too. I do that a lot. Just like so. Dispose of that properly. Then, now this is upside down, so keep it upside down for the next few seconds. Then we're going to find the center of the disc, just like so. And this is the beauty of having this little thing. As you line this up, you just try to get it nice and square, and you have those things. So I'm looking directly above the camera right now. And then once you get that, you can go ahead and remove that block. It's really just for a few seconds to get it really nice and on there. And then I'm going to go ahead and begin to press this in, hopefully getting that vinyl to begin to stick really well on the disc. And we will go ahead and peel. There will be lots of air bubbles, I guarantee you. So we'll get some time to fix all of those here in a minute. And this pulled this little extra piece off, which is fine. I had a couple of rings around it, just in case I had I didn't know what disc exactly I was doing at the time. So perfect. I will say I did get a lot of air bubbles around the edge, so I might have to peel this back up, which is not what I really like to do after it's sat, but because it's such a thin line all the way around, and there were so many air bubbles, I think it's going to be the best bet. Okay. Nope, I pulled it too tight. Again, this is not what I like to do, but sometimes you just kind of have to make things happen. Trying to get as few of air bubbles as possible in it. Okay. So now we're going to spend a good solid probably 3 to 5 minutes getting every single air bubble out of this thing that we possibly can. And so it will take a few minutes to do so. You can use multiple different tools. Your hands work really well. These scraper tools work well as well. The only thing I would say about the scraper tool is try your best not to gouge the vinyl. It is very easy to overdo it and put a hole in your vinyl, and you do not want that at all. But if it's in the center of like this part right here, I'm not as worried. It's all about the edges. That's what you have to worry about. So take some intentional time to get every single air bubble out every direction. And then we will apply a little bit of heat to it. That seems to have really helped me in the past, getting it to really kind of seat onto the vinyl onto the disc. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. This is a heat gun, which is a little different than a hair dryer, so it's a little stronger. And so when I do it, I am just going to press the top one, which is number 1 power or number 2. Number 1 power is all we need. And I'm just barely heating it up, just a few seconds worth of heat, going around in a circle or any direction, just to warm up that stencil just a little bit. If you do this too much, especially with a heat gun, you can ruin a whole lot of stuff. So you don't want to damage your plastic by making it too hot. You don't want to damage your vinyl by making it too hot. So it's just a few seconds back and forth. Do not keep it in one area. You don't want to damage anything. It's just to help everything stick properly. Give you a really good seal around your disc. Because again, all those little numbers and all the different things that got pressed in with the original stamp on this one, you do need to be careful of, because like I mentioned, it can bleed through. And so you just kind of got to be careful. And I've had it bleed through in places that you thought you were pressed down really good, and it does kind of damage the quality. I mean, I think most of them still look really awesome, but if you were wanting a super clean finish, that's one of the things you really will want to do. So just keep it up. The other thing I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to go ahead and pour in the black. So I'm probably going to pour almost this whole jar in. It was about 3/4 of the way full. I've used this many times. Put your jar back there. And we'll go ahead and heat this up. We're going to put it on number 2.5, almost 3. Right there. You're looking for it to smoke. You are not looking for it to boil. If you boil it, you're going to boil your disc and it's going to not work. You're going to ruin your disc. So I did that once on a really good disc and I was really mad at myself, and that thing does not fly the same anymore. So just follow my lead on that. Do not let it boil. If it boils, give it like 5 minutes of just sitting there. But that's why I kind of do it towards the end. The other thing I sometimes do, now that my hands are nice and warm, sometimes I just take off my glove for this part and I press in with my hands, and it works really well. My hands are pretty warm, kind of almost sweaty at this point from having gloves on for the last 10 or 15 minutes, and just kind of going at it as well as I can. Really pressing in kind of hard. And then we'll come on this part with just making sure, again, everything near the edge And sometimes I press from the bottom in the same spot that I'm pressing, and sometimes that helps. This right here is that spot that I put the extra piece on. I do want to make sure that's all good and down. I'm going to do one more set of heat, and then I think that's going to be good. I really think that heat does help it adhere really, really well. Because that's one of the newer things I've been doing. I read something online about using a hairdryer, but I don't have one that I'm allowed to use in the garage. But I did have this laying around, so I'm like, why not? So still keep an eye over there on your hotbed, making sure it is not boiling yet. It is, and just make sure it's when it smokes, you go ahead and kill it, turn it off. I think that looks good right there. We've got to be really close on that hotbed. Everything is, I don't know if you can see, there is a little light over here. Make sure your light's on, which means it's on, unless your light's burned out, I guess. But it is almost beginning to smoke, I can tell. I'm gonna move it around just real quickly over there. Just grab the handle and moved it once or twice. And then we're gonna go ahead and set up kind of this workstation. I like to kind of put the towel next to it. And it's just starting to smoke. When I pull this off, you probably won't even be able to see it smoking, which is fine. But go ahead and turn that off. And the other thing I like to do is make sure there are no air bubbles. It's very similar to other dye jobs. If there are air bubbles in it, it can actually affect it pretty bad. So look at some different angles, put your head around to make sure there is nothing. Then we are going to end up putting this in for 10 minutes. And so, got a little bit on the rim there. I am going to try to get that off. I think I was trying to do it too fast. Q-tips can also be helpful for this. I should be able to use some acetone and get the rest of that off. I just didn't want it to be super, super dark. But go ahead and leave this for about 10 minutes. Sometimes I do it 5 minutes, but I want this one to be relatively dark because of the design that it is. And so I'm gonna start with 10 minutes. Again, you can do 5-minute increments, whatever works best for you. Okay, let's go ahead and pull it up. You're gonna go ahead and let it drain a little bit. Go ahead and wipe it. This is where you use a lot of paper towels. And we'll go ahead and spray it off real quick. Does look like a couple of places around the edge did not do exactly what I wanted it to do, but I still think this is going to turn out to be a really sweet looking dye. So we'll go ahead and peel it off. So there's a couple of little spots that did not go perfect. I think that's because I had to readjust part of the way through, which happens. The rest of it's looking really sweet. The weeding is pretty quick on the end. The other thing I would say is do not poke down into it. You can see the angle I'm going at with this tool. If you poke down into it, you have the potential of poking into your plastic, which you do not ever want to do. You don't want to mess up any of the flight characteristics at all. But I think that turned out really, really, really sweet looking. I am going to spend a few seconds on the back of it. I kind of had some issues there, so a little acetone, and it just hit it up quick. Did not get enough on there. This acetone's almost out, so I really have to dump it. Been using this for a very long time, this same acetone container. Oh, there's my alarm to wake up for the day. Good thing I'm already up. Making a disc die. Early bird gets the worm today. So, that right there is it. I am going to go ahead and clean off the disc one more time. And also the underside, because I did work on that rim for just a few seconds. But overall, that looks really, really sweet. At least for me, I think it looks really sweet. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this was helpful. Hope you learned something today. And keep watching my videos. Like, subscribe, comment. Thank you guys so much.